Hi, welcome to my TED Talk about all things ataxia me. Now, I wanted to start this talk off by talking about some situations that I've been in where I've kind of had to use my disability to get out of it. For example,
Sorry I is late in it. There was like something on the TV about monkeys, so I kind of had to listen to it in it.
well, now that you're here, please state your name for the camera.
Name's Ali J in it. I'm joking. I'm Joe. Sebby's best friend.
Well, just before you arrived, I was actually talking about some stories in which I had to use my disability to get out of it. You know exactly the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's been a few instances where I can think of situations where we've used your disability to get a leg up on life.
Yes. The most infamous being the college bus incident.
Yeah. Who's explaining it, me or you?
I can start.
Go on then.
This was after college, and we got the bus all the way home. Normally we get the train, but probably strikes, I can't remember. But we were almost home, and we were sitting upstairs on the bus, and there's this other group, a bit yobbish.
Yeah, a couple road girls and road men.
So I'm talking
quite loudly as usual. Sorry, continue.
And I can't exactly remember like what the conversation or my comment was.
It was something about Ilford. That's what I remember. I'm not going to say it
Ilford.
Out of respect for the great people of Ilford, but it was something quite rude that you said rather loudly. And considering that we was on a bus towards Gants Hill, a central hub for places towards Ilford, or transport towards Ilford, you go and say something quite nasty. Wasn't particularly wrong in a sense, but rather nasty. He says it out loud. And the worst thing is we're right in the middle of the bus on the top deck. They're all at the front of the bus. And you could just have this moment like where you have all these people do a head turn, like one of those moments. You could see that happening. And I knew that there was a moment where someone would have stood up and said something to you, because you could see them all going, what did he just say? What did he just say? I looked to Sebi and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to fight these guys. I can't be asked for a fight. I'm not doing this today. So I lean over to Sebi and I say, please just spaz out for a second. And he's like, what? I said, please just spaz out for a second. So they just think, oh yeah, I'm so sorry. So as I've done that, Sebi goes and does this. So he does that spaz attack on the bus, and I take him off the bus, and I see people look really apologetically toward me as I'm taking him off the bus because he's pretending to have a spaz out, and I'm just like, you know what, enjoy the rest of your journey. We'll make sure that he's okay. He lives around the corner. It's fine. We're so sorry. Just keep on your way, Seb. And he's still doing the spazzing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was moments where we were just his cerebral palsy has caused many a moment. Funny, yes, most of the time. Near enough all the time, funny moments that have either gotten us out of trouble or out of a situation we just didn't want to be in.
Yes.
Which has been relatively funny.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, have you told them about what happened at Slug and Lettuce?
Yeah.
Did you want me to tell?
Yes.
This was late 2022. Yeah, late 2022. And Seb and I were on a night out. And we just come home and we were thinking, I still want to go out. There's still places to go. So we decided to go Slug and Lettuce, but lo and behold, it's been closed for renovation. And we're like, oh, shit. Okay, cool, fine. We're standing there looking for other places to go because we didn't really want to go to the George. And there were these two women, probably about either same age as us or maybe a couple years older than us, but they were dressed to the nines. They were dressed great. But they were, what can I swear? Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Okay,
that's completely...
Yeah, I should have asked them. They were fucking drunk. They were gone. They were off their tits. And I'm pretty sure at one point one of them was throwing up.
Yeah.
And Seb and I don't mix our language, so like we talk very, very funnily. I mean, we have this Simon Pegg, Nick Frost kind of dynamic between the two of us. We're not together, but we're best friends.
Yes.
But people like to think that we are, in a sense, and we kind of play to that, in a sense, because like he calls me darling, I'll call him sausage and stuff like that, because it's just jokes. It's how we
Pet
were raised.
names, isn't it?
Don't say that. Not in front of the camera. But we do that all the time because it's just, you know, if you can't be sus with the boys, are you even boys? So anyway, we're talking about where we want to go and stuff like that. And they're drunk, so they're just going to start talking because you get boisterous, you get hard when you're talking to people, when you're drunk. So they look at us and one of them just goes straight away, are you in a relationship? And I look at them, I'm thinking, no. But there was a perfect opportunity to go to and say to them, I'm not his lover, I'm his carer. It was a smart play on word. They were drunk, they were too, they didn't understand it. But the other people who were there, they just turned around and one old guy just went, it's because he's mentally fucked. And then Sebi went, no, I'm not. And then walks off like that to prove that he's not mentally screwed over. But yeah, there have been moments where it's been extraordinarily funny.
This next story, you part of this a few years ago.
Yeah.
But equally as funny and as could have ended badly.
Right.
So this happened in the gym.
Okay.
Because of my disability, I am quite a naturally curious person, and I people watch.
Oh,
if I find somebody interesting, I look at them.
I already know where this is going.
She was facing the opposite direction, and I was looking at her because I was thinking, oh, you look quite interesting. I want to know your story, or I want to think about your story. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
But instead of coming over saying, oh, I feel uncomfortable, please don't look at me, I would have been like, all right, fine, I understand that. She does something as bad as what I did.
And
she goes over to her brother, tells him, and they come stand either side of me, not saying a word. My dad's with me in the gym, so he sees what happened. I'd finished my rep at that point, I left. And Dad goes over to the brother, kind of standing over him like that, and he's like, is everything alright?
Okay, that's not where I thought the story was going to go, to be fair.
But
in my head canon, in that personal story, I thought they were going to come up to you and like try and intimidate you, and then you just would have gone, and they would have gone, I'm so sorry, oh my god, why were you picking on a disabled person like that? I thought that's where the story was going.
But situations like that, I know people can't see that I have a disability or it's not obvious, and that's on the most part a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know that it doesn't backpack me. I get on with life. I'm just me.
Yeah, you're just a cunt to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But situations like that, even though they don't know I have a disability or can't see it, it still kind of makes me feel guilty that I have a disability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
There was also another similar one where I was getting off the train and I was putting on my backpack. I did it like that,
Right.
and I accidentally twatted a woman in the face with my elbow, and then she sounded like she wanted to kill me. Yeah.
How'd you get out of that one?
I just apologised and moved on because it's just exhausting kind of trying to explain my disability.
Yeah, especially when people don't want to hear it.
And then it also kind of makes it sound like I'm using it as an excuse, even though I'm not, because people just don't understand disability. So yeah.
I can understand that from that perspective because, I mean, there's a lot of people who won't challenge people with disabilities, rightly so, and then there's people who will do that because they don't see them for their disability. I mean, I don't think I have ever seen you for your disability.
Yeah.
And not to say that I've grown up around people with disabilities enough anyways. I mean, but before I met you, my best mate, he had some sort of global delay as far as it was put to me. He had this block where he was a really smart guy, but there was always this little thing that was stopping him, and he had this pretty bad speech impediment, so he would stutter every once in a while, and he could think of what he wanted to say, but he couldn't say it properly. So sometimes I'd have to finish a sentence for him.
Or you talk, then your brain takes a second to catch up.
In a sense, basically what he had. But I never treated him any differently than I would have treated anyone else. Do you remember back in college? Remember Ellie?
Yes.
Yeah, she's everywhere now. Like doing modeling.
Crazy.
And she's got Down syndrome, but that doesn't stop her.
Yeah.
And I remember one time in college, we were doing something. It was some sort of exercise where we had to speak truthfully. I don't know. It's one of those 21st century kind of crap things, the woke stuff. So I remember I had said something that I believed was to be true, and one of the teaching assistants said, "I can't say that," and I said, "Why not?" And they was like, "Well, because it's insensitive, isn't it? And you can't talk to her like that because she's this and she's that." And I said, "Well, no, I can, because I mean, it wasn't out of pocket." I said, "If it's out of pocket, then I can understand your argument, but because it's within range, because it's within allowance, and because I haven't said it maliciously, it's okay." But yeah.
Also, if she didn't like it, I'm not saying everybody's like this, but she personally would have spoken for herself.
Yeah.
That is also one thing that you see in college, school, and stuff. If you don't have an LSA who's properly like versed in it, used to it, done it for years, then in a sense speak for you, because I've had many LSAs like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand she's doing her job, and it was, so I can't even remember specifically what it was, but I knew I had said something and she didn't particularly like it. But when I explained that I can say this within right, because I mean, I could just say the easy thing, free speech, but because I knew what I was saying and I could back it up. Because I mean, you remember when they tried to make us do something for Black History Month?
Yeah.
And you was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." You at first, and then when I said no, you was like, "Wait, what?" And then everyone was going up in arms about it because I was like, "I don't want to do anything for Black History Month because to me it's just bollocks." And they were like, "But you as a black person," I was like, "Yeah, you want to relegate my history to a month?"
Then you kind of explained it in a way where you basically said you don't like when your whole disability or groups of disabilities or something like that.
Ethnicities, I think you mean. I don't have a disability.
Yeah, but you explained it in a way that would make sense to me.
Yeah, because
you were like,
you
don't like it when that's
because
assumed about or grouped together.
Yeah, because when you, I don't want this to be an interview about me, anyways. But the way I saw it was, I don't like the fact that when it comes to Black history, the only things that they teach you in schools and colleges and stuff, the only thing that really makes any sort of importance is slave trade and civil rights movement. Yes, they're very big factors. One horrible, one that was really horrible that got something out of it in the end. It ended segregation, it ended this, it ended that. But realistically, it's like, I don't see the point of relegating a person's history to one particular month.
Yeah.
So you're meant to cram two central things. For example, would you like it if the government then one day said, we're going to have a disability month?
No.
Would you want a disability month?
If you're gonna learn about it, don't just go, it's part of the curriculum, have to learn about it.
Yeah.
Go, it's part of the curriculum, however, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's learn about this more.
But the thing is as well, when you think about, say for example, like if you were, because we have Black History Month. As much as I acknowledge it, and I don't particularly like how it's taught, if they were to teach Disability Month, it would be extraordinarily difficult, because think about it, there are many different disabilities. Some that people were born with, others where it happened to them because of an illness or it was war. They've lost limbs.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, because there's so many. Even blindness.
But then they are still all under one umbrella.
Yeah, struggle.
Really.
Yeah, struggle.
And that's not all right.
No.
Because like you said, there are multiple different races. And Black isn't just one race. There are different Black countries, each with their own culture.
Yeah, but we're all umbrella together.
Same with disability.
Yeah.
We each have our own, and I don't like to use the word, however, it kind of does encapsulate it in a sense, even though it's a horrible word, struggle.
Oh, yeah, fair. Yeah, no.
And there's a word for that. It's positive
affirmation, isn't it?
Segregation.
Positive. Oh, yeah, it's still segregation at the end of the day.
Because I actually came across this, and it might seem like a quite petty, small thing, but to me, it was like, no, this is kind of not all right, and you can see it happening to not just disabilities, but other minorities, where they'll actively go out of their way to not employ, so to speak, normal people, aka the white, straight man or woman. So we both applied for this position, actually. It was a trainee position at ITV. Going through the application, there was this one question. It was, do you see yourself as having a disability? If so, we guarantee you an interview with us.
That's a weird phrased question, isn't it? Do you see yourself having a disability? It's 2024, so I'm not going to make that joke. It's too easy, sorry.
It's kind of the way language is going nowadays.
Yeah, do you see yourself having a disability? I've dislocated 10 years ago in what? 10 years ago Saturday, I dislocated my right knee. And ever since then, I've had knee issues, but it's not a disability.
Disability is kind of like a grey area.
Yeah.
Like, because you can, in a sense, link anything back to having a disability.
Yeah.
But then there are different levels. There are mental health disabilities, functioning disabilities, physical disabilities. So, I mean, I put down, yes, I do see myself as having a disability, or identify as having a disability.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, I'll take this. I don't like taking this.
If I'm being honest.
But
as well.
Sorry. I mean, I'll use the advantages to get ahead in life. However, I don't like using it because I want to be a person. I just want to be like any other young adult. I want to laugh with my friends. I want to go out. I don't want to be like, oh, here, take this, take that.
Can I be really honest with you?
Yeah.
I actually do feel guilty at times. I do, because like when I first met you, oh God, 5 years ago now. When I first met you, no, 6, isn't it? 5 or 6? 6. Jesus, it's 6. Yeah. When I first met you, I didn't see you for having a disability until I heard you speak. I was like, oh, okay, well, he's got something, but I don't really care about that. It took me about 2 years to ask you what you had. Because I remember we were walking home from the cinema and I asked you, what is it that you actually have?
Yeah.
But I remember when I first met you, it was at the youth theatre, and we're similar characters. We're similar kind of people. We like similar kind of things.
Yes.
So obviously we'd go after the same characters. I remember a moment where I think you and I were the only 2 people who wrote down this one character because he had an extensive monologue.
Yeah.
You and I were the only people who wrote down this character. And again,
it was a great monologue.
It was a great monologue. And then in the next show, you and I were the only 2 characters who went for a certain character who swears a lot in these bridges. And then in the next show, you and I went for the teacher because we were like, okay, cool, it's something. And there's not really a lot of guys in this show, so we might as well get something out of it and just like be a geography teacher.
We know how to turn a role like that into something
into
fun.
Gold, innit?
Yeah.
And each time we wrote down this role, I got it and he didn't. And I understand, I feel like I understand now why you might have been a little bit angry or pissed off with that. And I feel like one of the biggest things when it comes to, because obviously you like acting as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you study it. One of the big things for you as well, I think a word that kind of encapsulates you, well, it kind of hangs over, but doesn't encapsulate you, is underestimated.
I knew you were
because you are though. That's the thing, because not a lot of people get to see that. I don't think you've ever truly been given the chance to shine, because people, because like the first thing people are going to see or hear anyways is how you talk. They'll see that and they'll think to themselves, okay, cool, we've got this character, and then typecast.
Yeah, and that's also part of the reason why I don't like the way I talk. Like, obviously to me, because everybody hears their voice different, obviously to me it sounds just like anyone else. But when I actually hear it on camera, it's weird, because it's like 10 times slower than I hear it in my head. It's got like a, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just kind of giving an example of it. Oh, hi, Joe. Obviously not to that extent, but it's got a bit of that, elements of that going on.
Yeah, that's for sure. That, I guess that's your own mental block with it.
Yeah.
I remember one time actually where I think this is the one time I did kind of make fun and I don't no, I wouldn't say make fun. I mean, that's the wrong choice of words. One time I did regret choosing you for a scene when we were doing that our written show for college,
Yeah.
our final show. I had written this scene, or you had written a scene. I can't remember who wrote it, but someone wrote this scene between you and Georgie.
Yeah.
And directing it was fine. Watching it, on the other hand, I was just like, who wrote this? I did go and do that because I saw everyone else. I was like, oh, fuck. I didn't. Kind of forgot both of you had cerebral palsy. And you talk fast compared to Georgie.
Yeah.
Georgie's disability was 10 times worse than yours, if I can say that.
Yes, you can.
So, watching the scene, I remember I had to cut. I made cuts to it to shorten it because I was like, if we do the scene in its entirety, we're going to be sitting here for a while and people are going to be like, why did they do this scene? Why did they put these two together? It's funny for the first 2 minutes. And then you're like, okay, cool. You can end this now. Yeah. But yeah, I know you don't like being labelled with the underestimated notion. And I think you know as well as anyone that it's going to be there
to some extent I do like it because it
you
gives
get to
me
prove them
an
wrong.
opportunity to kind of not like give an example but kind of show like we are like this, but it doesn't make us any less. You
saying that reminded me of something extraordinarily funny. Okay, so you talking about disability. Yeah. I remember singing a different song.
Yeah.
Right, so we had to create our own characters, and this was like the second to last show that me and him did at the youth theatre, and we're playing it off because it's the second to last one. This is like part of the finale special, our final round the world tour, as we called it. So we've created this character. I created a character named Anthony Angle Kingston, usual guy, normal guy. And then we came up with this gag because we had to write the show collectively as a group. We all had to write the show. And then I was like, what would be really funny since this is a karaoke themed show? What if Seb's character was in a wheelchair for the entire show? And if you get him to sing, he has to sing I'm Still Standing by Elton John. He didn't end up singing, sadly. But we kept the wheelchair idea. So for the entire show, all 3 shows on 3 different days, we had him in a wheelchair. And for the first 2 days, he left the stage on the wheelchair. And then when he's coming up to take his applause, people are like, wait, you can actually walk? And he was just like, yeah, I'm an actor.
Also, some people don't have to not be able to walk to be in a wheelchair, but that's a different point for a different day.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and that reminds me of that TikTok. Or was it? It wasn't a TikTok. It was a comedian who was talking about people who say, "Oh yeah, why didn't they get a disabled actor to play Stephen Hawking in his biopic?" And then one of the guys, he said, "I'm so sorry to say it." But one of the guys was like, well, it would be incredibly difficult to get a guy who's bound to a wheelchair for most of his life to get up and walk convincingly because half the film, Stephen Hawking's walking.
Also, it also goes into a bit of a deeper point as well.
Yeah.
In how, one, a bit like other minorities, disability isn't really represented / talked about too much when it comes to celebrities. And 2, they, like you said, they probably wouldn't have looked for the disabled actor first.
Yeah, I can understand that because I mean, I don't know too much about that in the sense of the disability on how it is to be hired and that kind of stuff. But when you look at it from an acting perspective, you look at so many different actors who have played the role of someone who is disabled. For example, Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot. He plays someone with cerebral palsy. I think he won an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
Then you've also got Eddie Redmayne, who won the Oscar for Theory of Everything by portraying Stephen Hawkins. Technically, you can even lump in Peter Dinklage in there for all of his acting roles, because, and I want to get this right because I don't want to get cancelled here, because he is a dwarf, or a little person as they call him now. I'm pretty sure
Dwarfism.
He has dwarfism.
Yes.
But he's called it. There's people there. There's one guy that I know. His name's Hornswoggle. I remember him as Hornswoggle from the WWE. I've seen this guy who's about 3 foot something take on a guy who's 7'3" in a very funny match. But the guy was in the WWE from like 2006 to 2013, something like that. And he's a reoccurring character every now and then. And he's a massive activist for little people, or as he calls them, dwarves, because one of the big things that he was going on about was Disney's lack of ambition to hire dwarf actors to play dwarves, or little actors to play the 7 dwarves, because the king of the dwarves, as he called them, Peter Dinklage, said, no, who wants to do that backward story again? But that's just from one perspective. But I can understand, it's one of those weird things, because from what I can understand, if Hollywood hires certain disabled actors with certain disabilities, there's extra precautions that they've got to go through to make sure that you're fine.
Harder time working with them. For example, if they can't use their legs, they'll have a harder time moving around. If they can't use one arm, they're gonna have to change some scenes. If they can't talk as well, they may have to do some scenes more than they would base if they were doing it with an able-bodied actor.
You saying that as well was it reminded me of, you remember that TV show a couple years ago, Derek?
Yeah.
With Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I can't remember what disability Derek had, but the way Ricky played it, he showed it so much respect. The life of a person with some sort of disability. He showed it so much respect, and he showed it so much nuance as an actor, which was extraordinarily good. He was praised for it, but he was also criticised because obviously he's an able-bodied man, and some people were like, "You're just a comedian taking the piss," but it really wasn't. Because people like to jump to conclusions, and I feel like some people do that instantly with you.
But again, it's these other groups of people trying to speak for us. Majority of it was the white, just the white groups in general. And I'm not saying this as like white people, or like white people are the spawn of the devil, but it so happened to be that group of people.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you can't do that because it's disrespectful to us, but they never asked us what we felt about it.
Yeah, it's what makes me laugh is the people who are offended on other people's behalf.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, cool. There was a comedian who was, I reference a lot of comedians. There was someone who was going on about it, and it's just like, there's always a certain demographic of people who get offended on other people's behalf, and I think
Jimmy Carr?
Was it Jimmy Carr? I think it might have been Jimmy Carr.
Sounds like something could say.
Because he did describe them very, very specifically.
Yeah.
So it probably would have been Jimmy Carr. And there was another one who was like, when did Sticks and Stones stop being relevant?
Yeah.
But I guess different generation, different people, different background, innit?
It is a bit of a grey area, because on one hand, I know that there's underrepresentation, and I know that directors, if it was a visible disability, would go for that able-bodied person over that person who couldn't walk, couldn't use their arms, couldn't talk, because it's just easier to work with them. And on one hand, it's like, I do want to see more representation. Yes, that's a good thing. However, with it, it's like, well, we don't have that representation, but these people who don't have a problem with it, who handle it with respect, are willing to say, I know that there's not enough or a lot of disabled people. We are willing to, and at the end of the day, it is just acting. Act like we have that disability to kind of open the world up more to accepting disability. And as like I said, as long as they're handling it with respect, not taking the piss, that is completely fine. But like I said, would like to see more representation.
Yeah, I mean, it's the time to do it, because everything has a political statement in it now.
Yeah.
But
as long as it's not like shoved down your throat.
Yeah, not like just instantly thrown there. Because if you can make that connection to yourself, then
because that is just patronising.
Yeah. I mean, there's times where you feel like it's needed, and there's other times where it's just like, okay, cool, we get the message.
Yeah, to go on to that point, it's like, and it also goes with the point about not the representation thing, the thing you said about the roles. All your life, you're told you can't do this, it would be too hard for you. Oh, we need to take special precautions, we need to adapt this especially for you. And while you were talking about the roles, I was just thinking, because they probably didn't do it intentionally, or they might not have been thinking about it while they were doing it, but because my disability is slightly seen through the way I talk, they are like, these guys are competing for this role, they've both written it down, but we're going to give it to this guy because of no disability, able-bodied.
It does make you kind of think that at times, doesn't it? Obviously it's
and also because you're told, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that all through your life, so there's just...
But then again, there is an element where obviously people don't see it, but acting is a competition at the end of it.
Yeah.
Because like, if you look hard enough, you see that it is genuinely a competition, because we obviously compete for roles. And we weren't the only two guys who possibly went for certain roles that we wrote down at the same time. It's just so happened that...
I mean, obviously I was a little disheartened when it's like not even one or two, I would have been not fine, but I would have been like, all right with it if it was one or two roles, but it was literally every single role, so that makes you think, oh, why then? Because
it does put that devil in you, doesn't it?
We both do the same roles. We both go for the same roles. We've both played the same roles. So
and I think because with their process as well,
am I like not good enough for this role?
See that? Yeah, I understand.
It's also because there were other opportunities alongside. Because the drama centre is it's not a big building, but it's a big, well-known organisation. So there would be other opportunities that came. For example...
like when I got offered Oliver.
They would sometimes ask people in the youth theatre. But you were the only one they asked in the youth theatre?
I mean, I was the only one asked to audition. I think Callum was doing it anyways.
However, I'm not saying I'm
That was
better
my
than you,
my first year.
but
as well.
I was doing the youth theatre for a lot longer than you,
Yeah.
and acting wise, we were on same similar level. So again, it's like, oh, am I not good enough for you to ask me to do this? Just
And they didn't. They knew me less
thing.
than. They knew me like less than 2 months, and they just asked me to do that. And I was I didn't really think of it in that way because I didn't. Whenever I was there, I was just happy to be there because I was happy to see you guys, and I was happy to act because I was doing something that I wasn't enjoying. At college, I was doing sports science at a really good college.
And I don't want to think about it like that, but like I said, all through my life, I've been told you can't do this, you can't do that, and it's kind of conditioned me to always think like that.
No,
but I want to break that. I don't want to always think like that.
No, it is sad to think that way because I mean, because I remember you saying to me about what you were doing in university earlier this year, or sorry, last year, sorry, because you only had like one line in your most recent show, and
but they're like giving me deeper roles. They're giving me roles that require a bit more nuance now that I'm at uni.
Yeah, but I remember you saying something, and now that you say that to me out loud, I kind of hear it a lot more, and I can think it's a lot easier for you to say it because it's what you've been doing so much. Because I remember when certain people in RDC and in college, and even to a point even in uni, when they were ever having problems because they didn't get a substantial role.
Yes.
I remember the phrase that you said, no matter how big or small the role is, it bears the same importance.
Like,
it bears the same weight of
when I would be competing or write down the same role as you, and they give it to you, obviously I got slightly annoyed, going back to the point of, well, am I not good enough for it? And I wouldn't let it get to me for too long.
No.
Because
you had a job to do.
Like I said, even if I'd been given my secondary role, tertiary role, even a role I didn't write down at all, I'd still make the most of it. I'd still be like, I did want to see where I could take this role. However, with the role I got, I'd make the most of it and support the person who got the role I wanted. Or just support the other people in general.
I don't think I've told you this, but do you remember back in the show there? Sorry to bring that show up. Do you remember the one line? The people that they chose to make this line work, they couldn't make it work, and all the line was Grace Fremantle, more like Grace Fremantle. Do you get it? You don't get it. You don't get it. They tried 2 people to do that. Line fell flat. This is meant to be a really funny line. So I think when the first person dropped out of the show, they got someone else to do it, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, fine, whatever. Then that person dropped out of the show, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'll take it. Because they asked me to take the role, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then I thought to myself, I actually did ask them. I said, maybe try someone else. Maybe try Sebi, try Sam Case, try anyone to do this line. I mean, I've got a substantial piece in this anyways. Give it to someone else. And they was like, yeah, but we know what you can do. And we know that maybe you can punch this line home a lot further. I was like, okay, cool. But at the same time, give it to Seb. See what he can do. Give it to anyone. So I tried it, did the line. I had people on stage laughing, so I was like, okay, cool, fuck it, I've got it. When we came back to do the show after lockdown, and then after the second one as well, when we did it, I was going to take the line again, but the person who initially had the line came back, and they said, could you give the line back to him? because he's got nothing else to do. I was like, no, because if it didn't work then, it's not going to work now. I didn't see that obviously you can help anyone. But in my case, I was like, no, again, I want to go back to the same argument I went to like 6 months ago. Give it to someone else, give it to Seb, give it to anyone, because at least they know, they've seen me do the line. They can make the line work instead of just stand there and go, blah, 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 blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
In a sense, they kind of typecast you.
What, me or you?
No, you. Well,
I was the poster child of that place, man. What are you on about? I was the main event.
Even though my acting ability was probably above a lot of those, and I'd been there 5 or so years more than you, but that also goes back to the point where
it's that competition in the head, isn't it?
Where it's like underestimated, underappreciated. It's like, why don't you ask me to do all this?
Oh God, if you ever do a one-man show,
I've been singing your praises for years.
Yeah, if you ever do a one-man show,
it's fallen on deaf ears.
Yeah. If you ever do a one-man show, you know what the theme song has to be, right?
What?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong by the band here, but you can play Underdog by Kasabian.
Yeah.
Because you are literally an underdog in every sense of the word, because people underestimate you instantly. I mean, when they see you, they think, okay, cool, normal guy. Hear you speak, okay, maybe not as normal. There's that, he's got something. I don't want to press it. He's got something. And especially within the line of work that we want to do, people are just going to instantly just like say, okay, cool, yeah, he's got something. He can't do this. He can't do that. He can't. And I can understand there's going to come to a point where you'd be like, well, no, I can, given the opportunity. I might not get it straight away, but given time, I can.
Yeah.
This will turn into a podcast. I hate podcasts.
I am aware that this is going a bit long, and I know you said that you like listening to just people go on in general, or just me talk about stuff that's close to me, Jan. However, I am aware that you probably don't have the most time in the world to sit down and watch / listen to this.
I mean,
so
during the day,
I wanted to at least touch on this point.
Go on.
With it also goes into the point I was saying about non-disabled actors playing disabled people.
Yeah.
But this is to do with language towards disability.
Mm-hmm.
With the way language is evolving, developing, it's becoming quite patronising. All these medical terms and all these terms where it's like, I gotta tread on this carefully, I gotta tread around this.
I can't say this, I can't say that. Yeah, I understand
it's like little people, mentally challenged. It's like,
how calling someone a mother's offensive now.
You're putting a label on it, and it's like, it is quite ostracising.
There is that. Also, you mentioned,
and as a result, it's quite patronising.
Yeah,
and now I know not everybody would feel comfortable doing this. This is quite an extreme example, but personally, as long as there's like no malice, there's no hate, they don't mean it, it's just a joke. I don't mind somebody calling me a spaz or a retard. In fact, I kind of
don't say encourage it.
Encourage it slightly. And I use them words myself. But and you can add your 10 cents to that.
I mean, yeah, because walking on eggshells now, because I mean, like, I want to try stand-up comedy, but I have to make sure that I know the audience well enough to say, okay, cool, it's a generalization. But with stand-up comics and being comedic, it's different to how it is now, because obviously you can't say certain things that would have pushed the boundary. And I like to play jump rope with the line.
Yeah.
I love playing jump rope with it because it's funny. But with the whole when you were talking there, I genuinely thought you was about to go saying something really insane, because that's how my mind was working. I thought you was about to say walk a mile in my shoes.
But that's just because you've been around me and I always say stuff like that.
Yeah, and then there's just my comedic mind going here, there, and everywhere with certain things. But yeah, walking on eggshells, it is quite horrible, because some people with the way of the world at the moment, and you definitely look at politics, you definitely look at television, how much politics is taking over television. Pushing a boundary now is extraordinarily difficult, and when people don't want to talk about difficult things, for example, how it is to live with cerebral palsy or a missing limb or being black or being anything, it is difficult. Some people don't want to push that notion. Other people will do it, but they do it in such a way where it lacks care or conviction or any sort of I don't want to say respect, because they do show respect to it, but there's too much too soon and not enough story behind it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what a lot of people are missing. There's missing a story, because like you said, you like to look at a person and just see, I wonder what your story is. I don't really see you for your creed, your personality. Well, you obviously see them for personality. You don't see them for your creed. You don't see them for your ethnicity, your religion, until I get to know you. Because if your religion's a big thing about you, then all good for you. But I still want to know you as a person.
Yeah, if you make it about
because like
these specific things about you, and I bring it up and you get offended by it, it's like, oh, well, you're making it about that, so it's kind of hard not to see you for that.
But I mean, it's like I said, when I first met you, I didn't see you for your disability. I still don't see you for your disability. I mean, obviously the first thing that one would see is like, oh, okay, cool, pretty tall white guy. He's probably got something else in him that I'm not really going to push because it's not my business. Let's see what he's like. Let's see what his personality. First thing you probably noticed about me was the fact that I had a massive afro, and I also wear glasses. And then you see me act, and you're like, oh, he's good. Competition, I don't like that. And then we start hanging out because we realize we like the same kind of stuff, like Star Wars, Marvel, comics, girls, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we like obviously Tomska as well, that really bonded us as friends and stuff like that, and going to Comic-Con. So there's a lot of things that have pushed us together, but I don't see you for your disability. Never have, will never. But I will joke about it because I will say it to you off camera, because this will go too far if I say it, because I don't know if you're going to post this on YouTube or not.
Still undecided.
Yeah, because if I say it, then I don't want to get cancelled straight away.
But the brief for this was actually, it kind of stemmed from a conversation where one of us said, and it went on from the thing about people not seeing the disability, but you do something that might be a bit, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And you don't want to explain the disability, because then either people will see it as an excuse, or it's like,
I can't do this with him, I can't do that with them.
You shouldn't assume, but just kind of be wary that that person might have something.
Also, I do have to put my hands up and say I have taken advantage of you many a times.
Mm-hmm.
I have used Sebastian and his disability for free tickets to the cinema.
But like I said, even though I don't like doing it and it kind of ostracizes you, it kind of singles you out, it's like, still, I'll take all the advantages I can get.
It is perks because, I mean, free tickets to the cinema, free tickets to the zoo, free tickets to Fort Park, and Fast Track.
But the brief for this was we're going to create a piece of verbatim theatre, kind of showing the world you as a person and that you have a disability, but how others treat it and how you want that to be seen. And Jan, the director, said to us that we are not gonna tread round this lightly. We are gonna go heavy with this. We are gonna use all the horrible jokes. We are.
You know what you have to call it then, right?
What?
Special Forces.
Good one. Yeah. So what I said that kind of sparked this was because it's not obvious, and because if I do something that's a bit like, oh, you can't do that, people won't be like, oh, I'm sorry, you have a disability, you don't know what you're doing, which in itself is quite horrible.
Yeah.
But I said, oh, because mine's not obvious, mine's not on the outside, I might as well walk around with a badge saying, hi, I'm a retard, or hi, I'm a spaz.
Yeah, that's linking back
also,
to something that happened during the 1930s and 40s.
So I don't have
in
to
Europe.
explain it to people.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Because remember the whole government were trying to make us wear COVID passports.
Yeah, I know it's a horrible thing, but at this point, it's kind of like...
You don't want to overdo it like the Germans did on their French holiday in 1939. James May reference, I'm so sorry. I'm cancelled, I'm gone.
And situations where it's like, oh, you've done something that's slightly a bit...
you pushed the boat too far there.
And like I said before, it kind of makes me feel guilty that I have disability. And going back to that gym incident, my dad, he knows why I do it. He completely understands. And I didn't want to explain it to them. Good thing he was there, situation sorted. But I know he knows about it, but I was talking to him about it and I legit almost went on the verge of tears with it.
You know what you're going to have to do then?
Yeah.
Wear prescription sunglasses to the gym, pretend you're blind.
Yeah.
So when you're just staring, just go like that, and then someone says, stop staring at me. I can't see you. I'm looking somewhere else, love. I can't see you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Why else would I be wearing fucking sunglasses in the gym? Where's your walking stick? I don't need it.
Yeah. And I want to wrap this up soon, but my mind has gone on to a different
Well, then let's wrap it up, and
that's
then
how my mind works.
Yeah, same there. Well, the sun's setting, so let's end the time on this.
It's like, I like talking about this, but at the same time, I'm like...
It's because it's a good conversation.
Why does my mind work like this? Why do I constantly go into different branches?
Well, then if...
The point being, not everyone, but disability in some situations is quite fetishized.
Jesus! That's a word, fine.
In the sense that, like, now this is a horrible thing people have started doing, and it's come about in this whole, like...
Oh, what, pretending to have a disability to get perks?
Self-discovery, like,
improvement,
putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Wave of stuff. And it's called transabled. And it's people who are physically going out of their way cause themselves to have disabilities,
Oh, wow.
amputating their own legs, blinding themselves.
Oh, because they identify with that.
Yeah.
Well, on that bombshell, it's time to... Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Well, I'm going to end this before it gets even worse.
Yeah, literally. But yeah, it was nice talking to you. If you want to see a part 2, get this video to 3 likes.
Bye.